All right, I want to thank everybody for being here with us tonight. Today we are going to have Mark Denney giving us a presentation on presenting in the age of Zoom. But first, we do have a couple announcements. We have a PMO roundtable, PMO portfolio management and performance. What are the best practices for PMO facilitated portfolio management? How do the successful PMOs facilitate an effective process, maintain objectivity, without getting mired in the politics? And that's going to be on November 23rd. So then we have PSPMI, ODN present the Manager's Everyday Toolbox. People join organizations and leave bosses, the old saying goes. Richard Wilkinson created the Manager's Everyday Toolbox to support managers at all levels in fulfilling their complex responsibilities, to achieve lasting results and build successful teams. Join him for an overview of the toolbox and a chance to practice several of the 86 tools it features. All participants will receive an electronic copy of the toolbox, and that's going to be on December 11th. And then we have PSPMI's Got Talent. This is going to be a really fun event, and we've got some great gift card prizes. The grand prize is $250 gift card, and then 2 runner-up prizes of $100 gift card each. You can just use the camera on your phone to take a video. And if you don't want to take a video, you can also just submit your own photo, because we're going to be making a collage for the event. So you can just participate that way if you like. The deadline is November 30th, and you can register at PugetSoundPMI.org. And then PSPMI and PNODN present Lean Six Sigma meets organization development, the rise of systemic coaching and consulting. Bill's going to share his professional journey that led him to adopt these 2 important disciplines to help him address the social and technical aspects of organizational performance improvement. And that's going to be on December 14th. And then we have a free webinar, Building an Intentional Career with Meaningful and Fulfilling Roles. This webinar is designed for anyone who is looking to make their next career move, which could be a company, role, or industry change, to up-level their career. This could mean a higher level or title, but it could also mean that they're looking for a role with a bigger scope or specific niche, or for a more fulfilling and meaningful role. And that's going to be on January 7th. So Mark has over 25 years of professional experience coordinating projects in the Bay Area, Seattle and Spokane. His experience includes a strong background in technology that began with Oracle during the first .com boom and continued with positions at Kaiser and Avista. He's currently working as a project coordinator contracted by Apex Systems to Puget Sound Energy. Recently, he received his project management certification from the University of Washington. Mark holds an MA and a BA in communication studies from the University of Washington. He enjoys weightlifting, bicycling, yoga, going to plays and movies. And during COVID, he takes long walks around Seattle. And during this, if any of you all want to participate by either using the chat function or put in a question for the Q&A, you can use one of those 2 buttons down there at the bottom of your screen. And also, as I'm sure many of you can imagine, during these COVID times, presenting is strange enough as it is, especially if you can't actually see anyone's face. So we would really appreciate it for those of you who are comfortable if you would be willing to show yourselves, show your faces. So I'm going to pass this on to Mark now. And we'll get.
So I want to thank you all for coming. And I don't know what any of your background is for the most part, besides you being either aspiring project managers or project managers. So I'm going to take kind of a nuts and bolts view on presentations. You know, this isn't going to be a discussion on how to format your PowerPoint. Most of you work for companies that have marketing departments and branding departments. And you know, they'll tell you what fonts and what colors to use. This will be more like a presentation where you're reading one of those self-help books and you read it and you're like, oh yeah, I already know this stuff. So I'm going to talk for about 20 or 25 minutes and hopefully I don't bore you. And you know, you guys can kind of take what you want and leave the rest. And I kind of want you to all to offer suggestions as we go, and I'll pause for questions. You can go ahead and enter any questions you want in the chat feature as we go along. And also, I'd like to hear suggestions from you all. And like I said before, there are no right answers. So let's move on. So the first question I want to ask, and I want you all to think about while I'm presenting, is what have you had success with in your presentations, and what haven't you had success with? So just think about that, and we'll move on. So, and the second thing I want you to think about is, back when I first started in grad school at the University of Washington, like 30 years ago, like before the internet, I was introduced a phrase by one of my professors. He introduced a phrase, "You cannot not communicate." And I think this goes for pretty much everything in human life. And I think this is something you think about when you're presenting to a group of people, whether it be virtual or live. You know, your communication isn't not necessarily your words. It could be your pauses. It could be the way you talk, your silence. It can be a number of things. It could be the way you point at the screen or the way you shake someone's hand. So also remember when you're presenting that typically your audience can't read your mind. So you want to express what you have to say. Remember, when you're presenting to someone, to a group of people, your goal is usually to teach them something, put an idea in their head to understand, or persuade them to do something. So I'm going to present something to you that I learned a long time ago, back when I was in grad school. And as I go along and I talk to you about this, this is something that you probably already do subconsciously when you're preparing a speech or when you're preparing a presentation and you're giving it to an audience. It's Aristotle's canons of rhetoric, and he presented them back in Greek times a zillion years ago. So there are 5 canons in rhetoric, and we're through them, that you will use when you're developing a presentation. They are invention, arrangement, style, memory, and delivery. So let's go through each one of these, and we'll see how it goes. When I thought about invention, I thought about what could I use as a phrase to introduce this. Invention is where you find all your facts. So back when I was a little boy, I remember watching reruns of Dragnet on TV, and there was always this infamous phrase that came on, you know, where Sergeant Joe Friday would say, "Just the facts, ma'am." And so that's where what do you want to do in your invention phase? You want to research facts. And where do you go to that? You get interviews with your coworkers and your executives. You go to credible internet sources, credible newspapers. You go to research and analyst firms such as Gartner, Forrester, and IDC. You look at statistical data and use personal experiences. Now, what I really want to focus here on is the word credible. You know, in a credible, what does it mean by finding credible information? Your resources should be credible. You should examine the authorship, check the date, examine credibility of the publisher, do a grammar and spell check, and research your sources of work. Remember, this is 101. So I'm doing the basics here, and I'm sure a lot of you know all this stuff already, but I'm hoping I bring it out into the front of your minds, just to bring it out. So one of the places that I looked for what I watched with regard to, whoops, excuse me, went back there. I watched, if you have a difficult time with discerning what credible sources are, a good place to start is a group of lectures that are actually available on YouTube. They're lectures called Watching BS in the BS Age, Carl Bergstrom and Justin West, and they were both with the Information School at the University of Washington. You can Google those on YouTube. So again, I want you to know your audience. This is the main thing that I want you to think about when you're presenting. Do we have any questions so far? Or any thoughts? Yasha?
No, Mike, Mark, you can continue. Yeah, not yet.
All right, so the second canon that Aristotle in his canons of rhetoric are the arrangement. And this is where you organize your presentation. And when you go about organizing a presentation, there are basically 6 different areas that you need to include when you're presenting. And you don't necessarily have to use all of these. Some people also use what's called the hamburger approach, which is just basically an introduction, your proof, and your conclusion. But in a more specific way, the way in which you would arrange a street is your introduction. This is where you try to connect with your audience. You know, you might want to introduce with a rhetorical question, or you might want to connect with your audience in some way. You then present your statement of fact, which is what you want to prove. You then you go to your division, which is your list of things that you're going to talk about in your proof. You then talk your proof, which is all your justification for what you want to prove. And then the refutation, the 5th section, is kind of your arguments against for what you had to say. So this is the section where you want to show your humanness. And then finally, you hit it out of the park with your conclusion. And sometimes this might just be re-summarizing what you said before. And in other instances, you might want to close with a plea. So that's arrangement. So the next canon is style. And I brought out another quote here that I thought I would share with you, because nothing here is engraved in stone. And what I really want you to remember here is that you need to mix things up every now and then. So this phrase, too much good taste can be very boring. And so when you're developing your presentation and then when you speak it, you know, you probably want to mix up your styles. And what I mean by that is the way in which you speak and what you talk to your audience. Back in the day, and I think still today, there are basically 3 different basic styles. The plain style, the teaching style, is kind of style where you're teaching to someone. This is the brown bag where you would be presenting to your, like a brown bag lunch. Excuse me, you want to talk in very simple language. There is the middle style, which is pleasing, which is where you use more jargon, like you would speak in your weekly status meetings. And then finally, the third style is the grand style, and this is where you want to persuade. Like if you were writing a presentation and then showing it on trying to persuade your organization on perhaps purchasing a particular kind of software or changing a particular human resources policy. This is where you would use the grand style. So, you know, mix things up. And what I really think, again, what you have to focus on is your audience, you know, what it is, what kinds of people are in your audience and what it is you want to get across to them. So again, this isn't an English class, but some of the ways in which you present your styles are through metaphor, through hyperbole, through rhetorical questions, through repetition, through parallelism, and through antithesis. You know, we all knew metaphors, you know, like for instance, we talk about the cloud quite a bit. You know, in cloud computing, it's just basically client server in a third party on the internet. Hyperbole is exaggeration. You know, my father, I remember him saying things like, I haven't seen you in 10 years and that kind of thing. That's hyperbole. A rhetorical question is something where you ask a question that actually has the answer. And using things like repetition is where you say the same phrase again and again and again. My favorite example of this is Oprah's, you know, you get a car, you get a car, you get a car. Parallelism is something like what Neil Armstrong said when he said, 1 small step for man, one giant step for mankind. So the key here is, what I think here also with style is using creative language, because when you use creative language, you're going to put the language in your audience and they're going to remember it. And that's when we move on to the next canon, which is memory. And in this canon, this subject, you want to know the subject you're talking about. You want to practice your speech and your presentation. You know, we went through and we practiced this presentation a couple times in a, we practiced this a couple times together and as a group, and they gave feedback. And then also to help put memory into your audience. And this is by the use of figures, the figures of speech and language, which we should have talked about before. So the final canon is delivery, and why I bring this quote up is the medium is the message is, we're going to, the medium is the message is it's not only the language that you use, but it's what I would say, you know, the way in which you speak in a live event is different from the way in which you would speak in a virtual event. So what are some of the things that you do when you're presenting a live presentation? You want to tailor the speech to your audience, as I've said throughout this. You know, when you're standing in front of a group of people, you want to watch your body language. You want to vary your tone. You want to triple check the spelling of your PowerPoint. And what I have not done here, I've read a lot of my PowerPoint here, but you want to remember that you are the presentation, not your PowerPoint. And you want to use your PowerPoint as persuasion. Don't use it as a distraction. Use it to focus on your topic. So, and in a virtual presentation, there are a few other things that you need to consider. There is teaching. You need to teach your audience the technology from the beginning. We did that a little bit, and we did that a little bit at the beginning here when we talked about the chat function. You want to know the technology. So we practiced a couple times during our dry runs where we practice with Zoom. And if you're using a camera, you want to talk to the camera as if it's another person, not at the camera. Another great tip is to use Post-it notes on your slides of your monitor. And also remember again that you are your presentation, not your PowerPoint. And so in summary, do we have any more questions, Yasha, or has anybody said anything?
Not yet, Mark.
Oh, okay.
Everyone is free to post any questions, the suggestions for the questions that Mark has posted, and we're all happy to take it up at the end.
Okay, so in summary here, I was hoping that we get something from some of the audience, like we're hoping we're going to get some comments on what they found that were good things that they had when they're in their presentation.
Yeah.
What didn't work for them. Because this is where we're going to hopefully hit it out of the park, but I guess no one said anything.
No.
Okay, so I'm just going to hit it out of the park right now, and I'm going to pass it back to Stefan.
So Mark, we do have one person saying that there's a suggestion for to always probably look at the camera and make the Zoom gallery quite small and quite positioned to the camera, close to the camera. So it probably, I feel that it would more be that, whenever people are presenting, sometimes they do not look at the camera or, so what would your, suggestion be around this? What you would have had success with while presenting?
Well, what I've had successful when like for instance, with you, Yasha, I'm kind of looking at you because you're part of the gallery here when we're talking. But the other thing here is, I think, is when you're talking with the camera, almost pretend like it's another person, like as if you're on like a, making it very personable is a way in which you can make more connection with your audience. Maybe having a live person in the room with you is another way in which you can help with your virtual presentation.
Definitely. We also have Erickson posting that, you know, a lot of times hyperlinks in presentations, have also kind of made it more interactive, and especially if the audience tends not to be linear. So for example, the challenge for WebEx and everything, what do you think would be your experience around that?
No, say that again. I didn't catch that.
So Erickson posted that, for him, that has worked successfully for presentations was using hyperlinks so that it tends to be more interactive.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
That's something I never even thought about, using hyperlinks within the PowerPoint presentation. That would be that's very cool. That's a great suggestion.
PDUs for tonight's event, it's 1.25 PDUs. If you're registered for this, your PDUs will be entered automatically within 2 weeks, and non-members, you need to manually report those. It's just the year, month, and date -01, so 2020-1119-01. So I'm gonna pass this off to Mike now.
Thank you, Stephen. And we wanted to talk about volunteers, correct? So do we have the volunteer slide we can share? If you are interested in volunteering with us, we've got a great team. We've got many portfolios, everything from marketing to professional development that puts on the classes, to us that we put on things like the holiday party, which we do have a holiday party coming up. So if you are interested in volunteering and looking to earn extra PDUs, this is a great way to do it. Contact volunteers at PugetSoundPMI.org. You can also go on vrms.org and you could see a list of open positions there, or even PMI.org. We'll link you to that. And you can filter down to Puget Sound PMI and find us there and look at open positions. So it is the time for the Wheel of Fun is suddenly thrust upon us here. So let me go ahead and share my screen real quick with you guys, and we will get at it. So I've got some names here, and this is everyone who's attended tonight. Thank you very much for attending. So we're going to pick 4 winners. And what I'd like you guys to do, if you are picked, please put your email address in the chat. If you do so, you are going to win a $25 Amazon gift card from us. That's our thank you for attending the event tonight. So let's do it. I'm going to click this thing. Where's the sound? Oh, I did plug in sound. Oh, well.
There it goes.
All right. And the first winner is Lo. Thank you, guys. Thank you to Lo. Lo, please put your email in the chat so I can send you your $25 Amazon gift card digitally. All right. Time for a second winner. Number 2. Okay. And please don't be mad at me for saying this wrong. The next one is Megan Lassane. Megan Lassane. Please put your email in the chat. I did my best, Megan. All right. Winner number 3. And here we go, around the Wheel of Fun. Oh, Christina Hayek ekes out Kim Price for the win. Raffle winner number 3, Christina Hayek. Christina, please put your email in the chat so I can send you your Amazon gift card. And last but not least, our final winner of the evening, we have 4. Last but not least, our final winner tonight is Gordana. Gordana, please put your name in the chat. And again, folks, you must be present to win, and you must put your name in the chat, your email, rather, in the chat, so we can find you. And with that, I believe we have maybe 1 or 2 more announcements. I'm going to go ahead and turn it back over to Stephen, and I'll stop sharing. Thank you, folks, and thank you for attending tonight.
I think that was it. So we want to thank all of you. Yeah, we want to thank everybody for attending tonight. Again, if you hadn't already, if you won, be sure to put your email address in the chat below. And yeah, we want to thank you all again. And please check out PugetSoundPMI.org to look out for all of the upcoming events. Thank you all very much and have a great night.